But before we get started, let's take care of a few housekeeping items. If you're not already muted, please hit the mute button now, but I think you're all muted, so that's taken care of. At the end of the presentation, we will have a discussion, so feel free to put your comments in the chat box. And just before the end of the session, you will have the ability to download the entire chat by clicking the three dots at the very bottom of the chat box. An outline of the presentation will be available for download in the chat box as well. Thank you. Did you know in 2017, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, supported 59 major disasters and 16 emergency declarations, which affected more than 25 million Americans. According to the FBI, in 2017, 11,300 people were victims of real estate wire fraud with losses of more than $150 million. In 2018, according to the research company Statista, 471 million, let me repeat that, 471 million records were exposed in the US. Now, you might be wondering why a disaster has anything to do with leadership. Well, that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. Our goal is to leave you with the tools to help you re-emerge stronger than ever after any disaster. I'm Valora Brown, 2020 Women's Council of Realtors, Georgia State Treasurer. Let's get started.
And I'm Valeria DeRobertis from Seymour, Tennessee, 2021 President-elect for the state of Tennessee.
Good morning, Tammy Marasia, your 2020 Regional Vice President, number Region 4. Welcome.
I'm Lorna Moody, and I'm one of the District Vice President from the state of Florida.
And I'm Sherry Spinizzola from Knoxville, Tennessee. I'll be 2021 President for state of Tennessee. And we are so glad you guys have joined us today. I know, there are other choices, but we've worked very hard on this presentation. I think you'll enjoy it. Emergencies and disasters, they happen every single day. But our reaction to these is what makes us so special and trained. So what would you do? Hurricanes, floods, tornadoes, car crashes, pandemic? SWAT members train and train again for these emergencies. So when that time actually happens, they're calm and cool, exact, precise, well thought out and practiced. But what can we practice? Well, we don't have the training they have, but if we can have the forethought to prepare for emergencies, maybe we can do a better job at it. For example, what did you do when you got shut down this February? Well, I know I watched more Netflix movies than I ever have in my entire life. Was that the right response? No, it absolutely was not. Could I have been calling my clients? Could I have been communicating with my Women's Council family and seeing how they're doing? I mean, what they're doing to keep busy and keep working, keep making money so we can eat, because I like to eat. I don't know about you. So how many of you have ever gotten the phone call, I'm okay? Raise your hand. I mean, you want to hear that they're okay, but why did they call and say they're okay? What happened, right? I've been in a crash. How many of you have ever heard that? Most of us at some point have had that phone call. It's not fun. Trust me. What do? Do you fight, flight, or freeze? We usually have no idea what we're going to do until that situation happened. For me, it was freeze. My husband was taking commercial flight lessons for an upcoming job with American Airlines. One of two engines went out. The instructor took over and made some terrible self-serving errors, which eventually crashed them in somebody's front yard on top of a Mazda. You can see the pictures here.
Wow.
When he called and said, "I'm okay, I've been in a crash," my response was, "Oh no, you crashed your truck? Dadgummit. Where are you? I'll come get you." He said, "No, not the truck." Cold sweats, eyes popped open, muscles froze. When they crashed that airplane in somebody's front yard, he smacked his head face first on the yoke for the airplane. He broke his orbital eye socket. He broke his back. He was knocked out. The idiot instructor got out of the airplane and ran, left him there to die. But thank God we had some great neighbors there that were spraying a water hose on the airplane so it wouldn't blow up. And my husband didn't die. He survived. All three of them survived. And we are truly blessed that he's still with us. He's got permanent damage to his eye and he'll never fly again. That's okay. We ride Harleys now. It's okay. But he's still with us. So do you know what you would do? I mean, it's time to think about it. My husband said when the engine went out, they have a checklist that they have to read when they're in emergencies. And he was trying to figure out what happened. His adrenaline was running so high, he couldn't read. He said it was like trying to text when you're driving in the Daytona 500. Adrenaline can do so many unexpected things to your body. So I think we need to get prepared. How many of you guys watched the movie Miracle on the Hudson? That was a great movie, wasn't it? I think everybody knows about the actual controlled water landing that Captain Sullenberger did 10 years ago in New York. In that movie, you may remember when they were being investigated by the NTSB, Sully reminded the investigators about the human factor. It took them a mere 30 seconds, but that meant life or death to those 155 souls. We all need to keep into account our human factor. Let's have a plan. How can we help each other when that happens? There are so many different scenarios that we can't go through each one, obviously, but I just want to get your brain working, thinking of what can I do? What will I do when the terrible happens? It's time to pause.
Thank you so much, Sherry, for that incredible story. After you pause, the next step involves taking inventory by identifying what happened, defining the potential impact, and then determining the appropriate crisis management response. Let's take a closer look at identifying. The first thing you'll need to know is what actually happened. Next, you'll need to determine why did it happen in the first place. And finally, you need to identify the chain of events that led up to the situation. Once you have identified what happened, you will be better prepared. It really makes a difference how you handle a data breach versus a financial fiasco or something health related or a natural disaster. Your response will be different for each situation. The next step we're going to do is to determine what was the impact. Now that you know what happened, you will need to define the impact by determining the nature of the impact, who is being impacted, and how severe is the impact. What is the nature of the impact? Is it financial? Is it legal? Or is it something that requires medical attention? Is it reputational? Or is it a combination of everything I just mentioned? Who is impacted? Is it your family? Is it your business? Or is it an organization you belong to? How severe is the impact? Is it minimal? Is the impact significant? Or is it critical? After you have identified what happened and defined the impact, Now you're ready to determine the appropriate crisis management response team. If the decision is made to use an internal crisis management team, each member must possess the necessary knowledge and skills needed to mitigate and/or repair the situation. You will need to decide if each member of the team will have a specific role or will each be assigned multiple roles. Whatever you decide, it is imperative that all the functions and roles be clearly defined. If internal resources are not available or the scope of the crisis exceeds the capabilities of your internal resources, then outsourcing would be necessary. I want to leave you with this question. How prepared are you for an unexpected major disruption to your personal life, business, or an organization? Please put your comments in the chat box below. Thank you. Tammy?
Thanks, Valor. Pause, check. Identify and define, check. Time to get some input. I like to use, or we like to use, the 3 M's: mastery, money, and mindset when leading through a crisis. Mastery. The definition of mastery is a skill or knowledge that makes one a master of a subject. Look at your realtors associations. It's the national, the state, the local associations for help. But wait, I need to take a minute and thank the Women's Council of Realtors during COVID. The tools, the collaboration, the classes, the contents, the confidence. We thank you all. The National Association of Realtors have boards filled with talented and educated minds. They think on a national level. This allows your team to stay current. Have you checked out the Pivot in Place videos? The flood feature factor this year? FEMA maps weren't covering the national rainfall. So take a look, go to National Association of Realtors, .realtor.covid. Also your real estate safety programs, they had wonderful videos on working on rental assistance or updates on eviction moratorium. The last video for the month was on cybersecurity. The Colorado Association of Realtors helped us make us essential in 3 days of the shutdown. My local association, the conversations with agents in my area, we can get through anything. Wow, that was helpful. Your brokerage, they know a lot. This is where you hang your license. Asking questions. I remember them telling me in the last recession when we were taught, cut expenses, cut payroll, and they have legal help if needed. My industry partners, oh yeah. Let's see what they're saying, what they're hearing. How are they reacting? Are they busy? Are they not busy? Are they implementing new practices? Economist, pick one you like. We heard from Dr. Young yesterday, but I focus on the state economist. It's important to know what's going on across the country too. Technology, watch for the National Association of Realtors videos and our Women's Council videos on technology. I happen to like the AR, the augmented reality, where you put the headset on here and you put the paint, pick the paint. It's real, it's here. City, state, federal entities, what's the laws? Have they changed? How does this help my client? Are there grants? What codes have changed? You know, we're the advisors. Money. Money issues equal fear. Credit cards. Increase your limits. Knowing that you have $10,000 to $100,000 in credit is like a safety net. Cash. Cash crisis or crisis experts state you should have 3 to 6 months to cover your bills. Do you know what your bills are? I saved up, and it took me 2 years to get that safety net. Do you know, it gave me great peace of mind. And I heard gold and silver are good too. Equity in the home. Don't wait to get this in place. This is a piece that you use only when you need it. Life insurance policies, they have cash values. Getting this in place, your fear level goes down. Mindset. The definition of mindset is a mental attitude, a person's view or philosophy on life. Mindset is the most important. Accountability, get some. Mine has changed over the years, but I always like to do something towards accountability. You know, I paired Ninja and Miracle Morning together for the last 2 years. I had coaches. What do you use? If you don't mind, put it in the chat room so we can share it with our members. I have 2 accountability partners. One is a top producer making over $500,000 a year in commissions. I also have my spiritual realtor pal, because I think the blend is just the greatest for me. Affirmations, right? I write mine 5 days a week. You know, there's affirmation apps that are free. If you go to the Play Store, you can use Mindset, you can use Think Up, or for a small cost, you can use the Louise Hay affirmation, Calm, Shine. There's a lot more. Or just go to YouTube and type in affirmations. You'll see, you'll get messages from around the world. Prayer, meditation, visualization. Monday through Friday, I try to do it, not always, but I work on it real hard at a set time in the morning. There are many styles. All we want you to do is take one, what works for you. Health, fuel the body, move the body, equals optimal performance. Do what is good for you. Maybe it's Zoom exercise classes, or maybe it's walking or running or riding your bike. Whatever it is, do it. If you don't like it, change it. If you have some medical issues, just ask your physician, because I know they'll probably have some choices for you also. Just do something to get started. Please invest in you. You are worth it. Take it away, Faye.
Thank you, Tammy. Now it's time to take action. Create your plan. You must first formulate a plan that is simple enough for everyone to understand. Then you must document all the actions during the plan. Communicate. Communication is key. It is paramount. Create and consider the messages that will be communicated to all those affected by the crisis. Let me tell you about Miami, Florida, 1992, Hurricane Andrew. During Hurricane Andrew, I found myself in a house with 4 others. We thought we were prepared with food and enough water for what was to come. But when Andrew hit, we were all hiding in the bathroom with 4 dogs and 3 cats. We could feel the walls breathing, and the noises from outside the doors were of windows breaking and who knows what flying around. You see, we were in the eye of the storm. Once it became quiet, we stepped outside and saw the roof of the house was mostly gone, as well as the sides of the house. The house we had planned on running to for safety, well, that was completely gone. Only the slab existed. Water was to our knees. We had lost our cars and all of our personal belongings. We were stranded in the middle of a disaster zone. Homes all around us were demolished. People were displaced with nowhere to turn to and no one to help them right away. Some people were not prepared with food and water. And even if they were, the hurricane blew it all away. I was there trying to help where I could. I did have the forethought of how important communication was and purchased a brick phone. It's actually a brick cell phone. And for those of you who don't know, that was the original cell phone that came out about 30 years ago. Because at that time, I was a police officer, and there were many instances where communication systems would go down. And as officers, we would need to call in to dispatch because communication was and has always been paramount. After about 2 days, I was able to reach my supervisor. They immediately sent help. FEMA responded and they followed the FEMA hurricane protocols. And here's a question I pose to you. Do you have a plan or code that your family or someone in your brokerage understands when there is an emergency? Think about it. The next step is you want to create your plan. Organize your team by gathering people and uncovering their strengths. Find out what they are good at and put those strengths to work. Coordinate and delegate tasks. Once you've organized your team, you must place the right people for the job in their respective positions. Be real, honest, and ask for help. In order for all this to work, you must be honest from the beginning, and above all, never be afraid to ask for help. Let me tell you about Great Smoky Mountains Association of Realtors and how they helped the realtor victims of the Gatlinburg fires. After the Gatlinburg fires, people of different associations were donating money for our 12 realtor victims from all over the country. They helped them with food and shelter and anything else that they may have needed. Checks were written out to each individual realtor family for their needs such as food, shelter, insurance, and any assistance needed by the Great Smoky Mountains Association of Realtors. Has your association or network helped within your realtor or city community? We would love to hear in the chat so we could share ideas with others. Also, after the fires in Gatlinburg, Women's Council of Realtors, Great Smoky Mountains, held a National Association of Realtors Code of Ethics class. This was taught by Robert Morris at no cost in December of 2016. Each attendee paid $20 to attend, and all the proceeds went to the realtor victims, and the check was written out by the Great Smoky Mountains Women's Council of Realtors, also on December 2016. We also had assistance from Virginia State Women's Council of Realtors. They raised money for the realtor victims of the Gatlinburg fires, and Women's Council of Realtors Great Smoky Mountains distributed the monies to these realtor victims in December 2016 as well. Okay, the next thing we want to do is bring in others who have experience. The more minds, the better. You will definitely uncover what experiences people have when you bring them all together. Training and follow-up. Training in itself provides systems, which in turn provides processes. As I mentioned before, communication is key. During a crisis, you must always keep everyone informed and updated. What are the best ways to do this? Snail mail, city programs, internet, cell phones, radio, associations, and so many more. And lastly, always have an evacuation plan, especially if the crisis calls for it. You may not have access to the internet or cell phones the way I didn't. So in cases like this, prepare to meet your loved ones at a specified meeting place. Have a go bag ready with medicine, cash, and valuables. Remember, communication is key, so always be prepared. Lorna?
Thank you, Faye. So, ladies and gentlemen, you have heard my colleagues talk about what to do when you are faced with a crisis. You want to pause and don't panic. You want to identify and define the problem so that you can better understand the impact and develop a strategy. You want to put the 3 M's into operation, which is mastery, money, mindset. You want to take action and remember that communication is paramount. And last but not least, it's time to talk about what to do after the crisis has passed. I want you to think about the times that you have learned the most in your life and your career. It's usually because of a crisis or a struggle that you have worked through. So post-crisis, we really want to look at what has happened so that we can learn from moving forward. So let's talk about how we can use the past crisis to prepare for the future and for a future crisis. Now let's look at the 3 R's. Recalibrate. That's the physical, mental, and emotional work you'll need to do in response to the past crisis. Then there is redeploy. That's the resource and organizational work you'll need to do to prepare for the future. And reemerge. This is the new you that comes after you have done the recalibration and the redeployment. So let's look at recalibrate. Physical recalibrating may involve a checkup with the doctor, adjustment to your diet and or your exercise routine, and of course, an emphasis on proper sleep. Often during a crisis, we ignore our health and well-being. So in the aftermath, it is important to make an effort to return to full strength. Mental recalibrating involves reflection on what happened. That is, what worked, what didn't, what lessons did you learn, or how can you respond more effectively in the future? Emotional recalibrating helps you connect to your feelings about the process and the potential for a future crisis. It's easy to move into a state of denial in a crisis. Hence, emotional recalibration helps you connect to and manage your emotional response so that you can provide good leadership, empower your peers, your friends, and employees to respond, and use those negative experiences in positive ways. Then there is redeploy. While recalibrating may involve looking back and evaluating what has just happened in order to analyze it and make a plan, redeployment is about the action you'll take in response to that recalibration process. At this point, you'll need to look around and determine what resources you have available. If the crisis is business related, think about how you can rebrand your business or yourself. Many times situations happen to propel us forward, even if they feel negative at the time. It's important to reach out and stay connected and in contact with industry partners, former clients, and a representative from a financial institution for continuous relationships. You should educate yourself on the latest gadgets and industry trends, get familiar and proficient with social media, or a platform like Medium to get your name and your brand current and fresh. Reemerge. Reemergence is about integrating all of the work you have done in the recalibration and redeployment phases. The goal is to emerge stronger and remake yourself and or your business. When you go through something difficult, you'll be tempted to hide it and deny it even happened. Ladies and gentlemen, you cannot insulate yourself from disaster, but you can prepare physically, mentally, and emotionally. It is said hard times build resilience, both in people and organizations. So use your experience to strengthen your business, giving it the muscles it needs to be in better shape for the next crisis. You want to forge relationships with clients, colleagues, and support personnel so that they will be on your team when you need them. Focus on how you can help others so that they will be motivated to help you. Let's talk about how crisis can be your friend. It may not seem like it, and you may not be able to feel it yet, but a crisis can be the best thing that has ever happened to you and your business. And I know you're asking, How is this possible? Well, listen to the words of a wise man, John Maxwell, and he noted, crisis changes the balance of risk and reward, making change possible and necessary. Crisis increases your focus and causes you to reevaluate priorities. And I know we all can agree to that. Believe it or not, crisis bumps you out of your comfort zone and into your creative and resourceful zone. Crisis forges leaders. You can't manage your way out of a crisis. You have to lead your way out. It is said game-changing leaders are created during times of crisis and of evil. And I paraphrase that from our leadership book. So, ladies and gentlemen, can we talk? Let's talk. So maybe you're experiencing a crisis right now in your personal life or perhaps in your business. Maybe you feel like you haven't coped well in the past and you want to be better prepared in the future. In either case, remember the following steps. Pause when you see a crisis coming. I know the temptation is to react immediately, but instead, press the pause button and give yourself time to think about what is happening so that you can make better and more informed decisions. Identify and define the nature of the crisis. Do you need more information? Do you need additional expertise and support? Know what's happening before you try to formulate a response. You want to gather input from trusted friends, mentors, advisors, experts, so that they will be better equipped for a meaningful response. Remember, we are looking to respond, not react. Take action and communicate with those who are involved. If you are weathering a personal crisis, you will need to communicate with friends, family, counselors, and at the expense of not sounding too religion, yes, a clergy. If you are weathering a professional crisis, you will need to communicate with your boss, support staff, colleagues, or with clients. And after the crisis has passed, put the 3 R's we talked about into operation so that you can learn from it and integrate the experience you have just been through. Thank you. And at this time, I'm going to ask my colleague Sherry to lead the discussion. Sherry?
Well, now you've heard from us. We want to hear from you. So we're not doing breakout rooms. We just like to talk about it on chat. And I think that you can also, at this point, you may be able to unmute yourself if you have a story that you'd like to tell. Here's some of the things we'd like to discuss. How have you helped someone else? Excuse me. How have you helped someone else? We're all in the service industry. How have you been helped? What are some of your ideas moving forward? We all need ideas. And how are you processing the things that have gone on over the last few months and the continuing uncertainty? So let's discuss this. We're looking at the chat.
Sherry, I think we have Fiona had put something in the chat earlier. Fiona,
okay.
Can you unmute and tell us what you were talking about?
So I personally got trapped at Dallas Love Field at the tornado, which killed, I think it was 6 to 10 people right around us. We had no idea what was going on. We'd never had experienced a tornado. It was pitch black. We were actually on our way home. Terrifying, but you just had to, you remained calm and you went out and you talked with other people that were essentially starting to freak out. So it was an experience. It was a humbling experience. But one of the reasons why I put myself on mute is because I know California's Ventura County is on, I can see Cher right in front of me. I think Vicky's right in front of me. I would love for them to share a fantastic program that they did last year. I think it was last year or the year before, following a mass shooting in their area. And they did a fantastic job in bringing the community together. So I invite them to come unmute because they were the ones who put it together and it was phenomenal.
Thank you, Fiona. It really was a phenomenal event. We had a community event, and it was a 6-month anniversary of the Borderline shooting and then also the Thomas fire. And so we had a community event with Nick Vucic. You probably heard of his nonprofit Life Without Limbs. He has no arms or legs. And he did it, and he donated his time, and we had about 150 people there from the community, people sharing their stories as to how they were affected with the fires. We had the director of 211 there as well, who shares any kind of local emergency information that's available. We had state there, we had people from all over. It was an amazing event. We also did donate $500 back to help some of the victims for the 211. And it was one of those events that afterwards people were really reaching out and thanking that we all came together and experienced that. So it was a phenomenal event. Thank you, Fiona.
They say what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Stronger, yes.
And I think there's a song
Yeah.
that says that too.
What doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
I
don't know the words.
I would like to share what I've been doing lately, because I am very afraid of what's going on, is I have friends and family that are going through this COVID crisis, or they're just afraid to get out. So I'm talking to them about placing their orders like through Walmart, where you go pick it up, and I go pick it up myself for them, and I drop it off. I put it at their front door and I run off. I'm not doing too much of it because I'm, keeping safe as much as I can, but with those people that really need that help, I do it. And the state of Women's Council, the state of Texas, when this happened, when everything went into crisis the first time in March, I mean, Ms. Cheryl Hunter and the 2020 executive group, then they started setting up Zoom meetings to help a lot of us that, are at home, going crazy with kids, learning how to cope with this, and having monthly and weekly Zoom calls with us just to get us back into reality a little bit. So the state of Texas really went all out with Ms. Cheryl Hunter, Miss Peggy Pentecost, and they got some stuff going on for us to keep busy and keep us safe. Thank
That's
you.
wonderful.
Thanks, Claudia.
Thank you so much for sharing that.
Who's next? Taffy? I saw something on the screen.
We've got plenty of time.
Yeah, so I wanted to share that, we have had so much, we've had so many things going on out here in California, as you know, but our networks have stepped up with their events to put realtors out there on the forefront to be knowledgeable about how we can help our communities and what our communities can do to be prepared and what realtors can do to prepare their clients. So I was just like a shout out to the California networks on what they have done and how they have responded to a double threat of fires and COVID at the same time, and just coming supportive and showing how the communities, how we can be the leaders in the communities to rally around people and lift them up. So just wanted, and I love your topic, ladies. I love your topic. So important.
Thank you. I think we all need to have a servant's heart. The more we give, I think the better we can help all of each other.
I think
Love you,
Kristen-
Taffy.
I think Kristen Olson raised her hand as well.
Oh, go Kristen.
I did. Hi, ladies. How are you?
Good.
Thank you so much for bringing everybody together. I miss physically seeing all of you, but listening to everybody's stories the last few days and just telling you, I've had, some of you know, I did have COVID in March, and it was pretty bad. So I've lived through it and kind of helped people kind of get through it. I recently just found out that I have some permanent lung damage from it. So the post, I'll tell you, the post symptoms are forever ongoing. But, we had the night before they shut our city down here in Indianapolis, we held one of the largest events that we've had. And I think my state president is on here, Bobby Noggle. We had the women dancing with the Women's Council of Realtors. It was the largest event that we'd had, and we packed the house. I was sick 2 days later, but the money that we raised for that went to our Realtor Foundation, which supports thousands of non-for-profits for homelessness here in Indianapolis. We were the last event that they've held all year. If we weren't able to have that event, a lot of families were misplaced during COVID because they had to separate them in these housing facilities because they had to have social distancing if they weren't of the same family. Our money came in just in time to help them. And you know, it was more than just putting our name on the board at our board of realtors. It really means something to me now to know that the reason that we're up there is because we pushed the bar, we pushed the level, and we said, we're holding this. We know we're shutting down tomorrow. We're doing it anyway. And other people matter more than we do. And it really helped a lot of families. My goal for next year isn't necessarily to step back, but it's to step forward in a different way. I ran as the vice president for our state network, and I really just want to help bring stronger leaders to the forefront. Our new president is somebody that I have been mentoring for many years in Women's Council, Magdalene Bergelon. I don't know if any of you have met her. She's an Indian woman of descent, and she just shines every time we bring her to a meeting. And she's just going to reign. She's going to do great with diversity, but diversity is huge, and it comes in all different facets and not just our nationalities. It comes with people now knowing that now I'm labeled as a COVID survivor. It's almost like I have the plague. I've lost clients. I have friends that don't want to see me. There's days that my mother doesn't even want to be around me because she knows that I've been to a physical meeting. Is very hard. So when you talk about, lifting people up, making that phone call, checking on people, just making sure they're okay, it is really important because I, behind the scenes, am doing that for everybody else. And it's like, I have one friend that calls me and she says, just see so much that you're doing. And I just wanted to see how you're doing today. She said, you do so much for everybody else. But I feel like when you said servant leadership is important. Kathy Hall, which will be our next president, was a speaker at my Real Academy class. And Kathy spoke on servant leadership and how it started for her. That sticks behind me all the time when I think of the things that we do and how we started this actually as young women and men in our lives and didn't even realize what we were doing. So we were being prepared for our roles before we even knew it. So carry on, ladies. I love all of you. I can't wait till we all see each other again. And we got to keep Indiana on the map. So, and hopefully we'll have some more get-togethers and people won't be so scared to come out. So it's hard. It's been a struggle for us with our membership. We have a lot of elderly members they're really scared, and I have to empathize with them, and I get it. I do, because I've been there. So thank you for all that you do.
Thank you for sharing that, Kristen.
Yes, that was good.
Holy cow.
Are those jazz hands? Yeah. Can you tell I have dance daughters?
If I may I make a contribution?
Please.
Of course.
All right, thank you. I just, this Sue Yannicone which summed it up, and that is that what we all went through, what we all have gone through, and what we are continuing to go through is so unexpected. And there's just no way that anyone could possibly have seen this coming or prepared for it. And it's the same thing with natural disasters. I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area. I grew up doing earthquake drills. You never know when an earthquake is going to come. It just happens. You have to be prepared to seek shelter. And now I live in Florida where we have hurricanes, and yes, we do have warnings. But you still, the most important thing is to have that plan that in place, to be prepared, and then just carry on with your day. And what we did here in the state of Florida, back when in early March, mid-March, when it became a reality that we were not going to be doing face-to-face events that, you know, something needed to happen. It was my local presidents, our local presidents were kind of in a panic because many of them had already made plans for the entire year of events, and they were super, super psyched about them. And now they were like, what are we going to do now? What are we going to do now? And the important thing for me as their president was to be able to, first of all, listen to their concerns, of course, and then to try to be a voice of calm and reason with them, and to let them know that, hey, this situation doesn't take away the fact that you are the president of your network and that your members are still looking to you to lead. The goals that you have had in place, those haven't changed. Those goals are still there. You just need to rethink how you're going to achieve them. And there are all kinds of creative measures out there in place that you can embrace to bring value to your members. And I have to give a shout out to so many of my networks, so many of the Florida networks, because they really did my theme this year was Rise and Shine, and they really did rise and shine during this year of uncertainty, to say the least. And I think that, you know, the biggest thing is that you have to be willing to be flexible, and stay focused on your goals, and just take it one day at a time, but don't panic, to be calm. Calm is like a love drug, and it's just going to settle you down and make you feel better so that you can carry forward. And I think no matter what the circumstances are, having a state of calm, whatever it is necessary to get you to that place, that is what that's what you have to get under grips right away.
Absolutely.
I
Thank you so
agree.
much, Christine. We
Christine.
really appreciate you. That was wonderful.
Yeah,
Natalie Derrick has her hand raised. She's from the Space Coast, and I lived in Melbourne, Florida for 5 years, Natalie.
Oh, that's awesome.
I
Did you
did.
come back?
I'll be there for Thanksgiving.
And I have to give Christine Citrone great kudos for keeping us local network presidents sane this year, along with Lorna Moody, my district vice president. But I wanted to just tell a little bit of a story that I had years before I was in Women's Council. Part of handling a crisis, I learned after the fact, was to kind of be prepared for the crisis before you can even imagine it happen. My husband, quite unexpectedly, went septic in 2010 and was in the ICU on a ventilator for over 4 weeks, and then 6 to 8 weeks of learning how to walk and recovery. We own a boutique brokerage. He was the broker of record, and I was a sales associate. Thank goodness my father was still alive back then and had his broker's license, because I don't know if you are aware, you only have 10 days to transition your broker when something like that happens. And we were at a risk of losing our brokerage. And so we had a local brokerage here close down after over 100 years of being in service as a real estate company, because nobody stepped up to be a broker of record after their broker passed away. And so that was kind of a life lesson for me. I immediately got my broker's license, and but I had to learn how to pivot very quickly when you have a teenage daughter and all of a sudden your life, Kristen, I'm sure you can relate entirely. And so that's, and what all he went through afterwards. But we survive. And that's the thing you always have to, and don't be afraid to ask for help.
That's right. Thank you so much, Natalie.
Thanks,
Joy
Natalie.
has,
Oh, who's next?
Joy.
Joy.
Unmuting myself. There we go.
Then I see Tammy Knoll after her.
And we've got 8 minutes left.
Oh, sorry.
I'm Joy from Michigan. I'm going to be the district vice president for 2021. Thank you. The thing that I have noticed is that, you know, we talked about all the different kinds of crises we're going through, and the emotional crises that we're going through also is something that has really hit my home. Accepting when you need to get help. I started going to a counselor, but I'll tell you, the thing that really struck home is whenever I talked about women's counsel, my therapist, because everything had to be virtual, she said, your entire body language changes when you talk about them. And I said, well, they're my tribe. And she says, and I said, that's where I get filled up. When I went to our regional and Kristen was there and we got to talk, love you, Kristen. That really kind of filled me back up to get, we hadn't seen each other since May in our virtual Washington, DC. And so since that time, and since my therapist acknowledged, hey, this is when you get going, this is when you light up, this is what fills you, I took that as a lesson. And every time I start getting down, I go to Women's Council site, find a course that I can watch and see Brenda Lee get me excited again, or, you know, Chris Lee, seeing some of my people and getting filled back up. And we all have that ability, you know. I said, you know, when the tough get going, when the going gets tough, the tough needs to go to a Women's Council event, virtual or otherwise. That is what fills us. That's what keeps us going. And I think we just need to, you know, remember that even if we can't see each other, we're there. Sometimes an email isn't enough, but seeing your guys' faces is truly what's kept me going this year.
Oh.
Thanks, Joy.
Hugs to you.
I love you, Joy.
Joy.
Love you guys. Oh, Mom, I love you.
Miss Tammy Knoll, you ready? I saw something about kids or such.
Yes, I'm involved with an organization called Outreach Lunchbox, and it's for children. We feed them lunch, bring box lunches to the school on Friday where they can take it home and eat it on the weekend, because not all children have food that they can eat on the weekend. So when this crisis hit, you imagine all the children that were not able to eat. So everybody gathered around, started still packing the lunches and carried them to the school where the parents just drove by in the cars, and we were able to still feed those children that normally would not have any food for the weekend. So I know we're all we are the adults obviously, but the children have been affected so much by what we have going on, and they won't express it the way we have. They don't have what we have right here at this moment. A lot of them have turned to social media, their gaming systems and all that. So just want to say, remember the children in all of this as well, because it's affected them in a great way. And some children are not as lucky as others and don't have the safe families that some of our children do have. So it's important to think about the children through this as well.
Thank you so much, Tammy.
That's important.
You're a sweetheart. Mwah. We've got time for just one more, if you guys don't mind. Cindy DeCoster, I believe she's got her hand up and would love to hear from Cindy. And then I think we're going to have to wrap up and say goodbye.
Thank you, Sherry. Thank you, team. What an amazing group share. This is touching everybody's heart and everybody in so many different ways. I'll share a quick story, if I may. When this shutdown happened in Florida, it was March of, right before spring break. And of course, my son was a junior, my daughter was a sophomore, and finishing off their year, preparation for college and all of that. All the while, I was praying for a pause button. So I love Sue Yaniko, you saying that, that it gave us this forced pause button, and it truly absolutely did. But so I embraced the shutdown. My husband and I just opened our own real estate company a year ago, this meeting actually in November. So talk about like massive amount of change, massive amount of moving parts, and everybody's energy level being taxed, shall we say. But I will tell you, God works in mysterious ways, and he absolutely blesses every one of our lives with this pandemic. And it may not feel like it in the traditional sense, but absolutely opened our eyes to our priorities. The use of our shelter in place, where we call home, has never meant more to our industry, our faith, and our families. And then not being able to travel was really a blessing in disguise for me. I thought I had vertigo, and it happened right before the May meeting. And I had crazy headaches and whatnot. Turned out to be a golf ball sized brain tumor that would have happened and erupted in the air or in DC. So had we not been shelter in place, and had we not been virtual, that is a sure fact. And God is so good, took total care of me. I immediately employed help, guided everything you said was like, dang, did you like read my diary? It was so true. It is absolutely. And I am not I am a pause, but I am not a frozen person. So I am a pause, evaluate, and jump into immediate action. So counsel my friends, counsel my family, work, mind you, the council was going forward, right? And I was leading a talk, I was moderating a panel, that's the word. Anyhow, I was absolutely sure to make sure that we got this going on and didn't have a hiccup. Met with the surgeon on a Friday, and I was having brain surgery on Wednesday. And here I am 4 months later, like rocking it out, and back in my heels and back stronger than ever. So if it wasn't for COVID and it wasn't a crisis, you wouldn't have had the opportunity to shine, would not have had the opportunity to show you have to move forward and take care of your people. And let me just say one more point about children. My kids are 16 and 18. Wow. The stress of that in their lives, the stress of my friends, and friends that may not have the same faith as me. I always say, like, the man upstairs, he loves me, but he's not ready to see me. And I had complete confidence in that. So I say that to say, your stress is my stress, and taking care of how you deal with stress and crisis is not nearly as powerful on your psyche as taking care of those that you love and their stress. So being a strength for you and for them, that's absolutely what we're called to do. And I absolutely am insanely grateful for the friendships, the relationships that this council, these meetings provide for us. So my heart, I love you guys. You strengthen me, and I hope I strengthen you.
God
Thank you.
Bless you, Cindy. We all love you so much. And since nobody can follow that story, that is amazing. God does have a plan, and we love you so much, Cindy. Thank you.
Back at you, Sherry. Back at all of you. Every one of us has a unique place in this world, in this space, and being able to pay it forward. I think that's what we're called to do.
Absolutely. Well, guys, we're going to have to wrap it up. I'm sorry, I'm the big mouth.
Hey, we love you.
Thank you so much from Leadership Institute. Thank you, Sylvia Seabolt. Thank you, Olivia and Cindy. We love you guys so much. And come to the mental health break at 1 Central. We could tell some more stories and continue to solve all the world's problems.